So good day. So this is the continuation of vector analysis. In previous class, I stopped at case 4, which deal with what? The two or more forces that acting on a body. Their resultant force can be determined by resolution of forces or by analytical method. So this is a question or example how to apply resolution of what? Of forces for two or more force we have in a particular body. If you look at this question now, we have to find the resultant force, and then we have how many forces here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 forces that acted on the what? On the body, and then we are asked to find the what? The resultant what? Force. So the first thing we need to do here is what? You need to reduce the number of forces you have here into 2 force, which is vertical component and horizontal what? Component. And then we have several methods that we can apply to reduce these forces into 2 form, which is vertical and the horizontal component. So yeah, let us look at it now. Solution. We need to let us tabulate this form, and we have this first column here is for what? For force. The number of forces we have here. The second one here, let's call it what? Resultant force for x-axis. Resultant force for what? Horizontal component. It's for this what? For this column. And the second one is the resultant force for y-axis. Resultant force for what? Y what? Axis. So we have how many forces here? 1. The first force, let us start from here. Force we have here is 5 Newton. The second force we have is what? 6 Newton. The third force we have is what? 4 Newton. The third force we have is what? 2 Newton. The third force we have is 8 Newton. The fifth force is what? Or sixth force is 2 what? 2 Newton. So you now apply resolution of force here. If you could still remember in a graph in mathematics, we have 2 coordinates in mathematics graph. This vertical line here is y-axis, and the upper part of y-axis here we call it what? Positive y. Here we call it negative y. Here we have negative x. This place will be what? Positive what? X. Yes. We apply this thing in what? In the question given here. So from the knowledge of the graph here, this place will be what? Positive y. Here we have negative y, negative x-axis, and positive what? X-axis. Good. Let us solve for what? 5 Newton. This force 5 Newton, it can be found on horizontal axis, which is what? X coordinate. So the resultant force for 5 Newton is still what? 5 Newton. But what is the value for 5 Newton on the y-axis? Is what? Nothing. Because we can find this 5 Newton on the what? On the x-axis, and the weak kind of x-axis is positive x. And now we write what? 5 here. The next force is what? 6 Newton. So and 6 Newton is inclined to the horizontal by 30 degrees C. So if this 6 Newton inclined to the horizontal by 30 degree what C, assuming this is what 6 what Newton. So we are the next thing we need now is what we will resolve this 6 Newton to be in what this horizontal line and to be in what vertical line. This place is opposite, and here we have adjacent. And this is what hypotenuse, which is what 6 what Newton. To solve for this y, adjacent is what is x. You can say what sine. To solve for what for y, you can say what sine theta equal to the what opposite over what hypotenuse. What is opposite here? Sine theta equal to the what y hypotenuse. Call it what h. So y equal to the what h sine what theta. So whenever you are solving for what for the vertical axis, we have what yh sine what sine theta. But let us solve for the what adjacent axis. Cos theta will be what adjacent over hypotenuse, and the adjacent here is what you call it x. Hypotenuse is what h. S is h cos what cos theta. So whenever we are solving for what horizontal axis under relation of forces, the horizontal axis, which is x coordinate, will be what x equal to the what h cos theta. So we apply this thing throughout the what this relation of forces. So whenever we are solving for vertical axis, what we use y equal to the what h sine what theta. For the x axis, we use what h cos what cos theta. And let us apply it here now. This 6 Newton is inclined to 30 degrees. So to solve for what? For this vertical, by applying the formula here, h sine theta. What is our h? 6. Here we have 6 sine what? Sine 30. So to solve for what horizontal here, what do we have? We have 6 cos what? Cos 30. Okay, let us put it here. What is the value for what? 6 Newton in horizontal axis. It will be what? 6 cos 30. What is the value for what? 6 Newton on vertical axis. Y axis is what? 6 sine what? Sine 30. So we are done with what? 6 Newton. The next force here is what? 4 Newton. So what happened? The 4 Newton can be found on the what? On the vertical axis, not on horizontal. Dash, we put what? 4 here. So the next thing we want, move to the 2 Newton. The 2 Newton is inclined through angle what? 60 degree. Through angle what? 60 what? Degree. So for this, what we have is inclined through angle to 60 degree. So to know the vertical for this 2 Newton is what? 2 sine what? 60. To know this side is 2 cos what? Cos 60. Abi? Oh yeah. The 2 Newton on x. This x is negative side. You have minus then 2 cos 60 degree. So on the vertical is the plus side. We have what? 2 sine what? 60 degree. So the next thing we have is what? 8 Newton. The 8 Newton can be found on horizontal what? Line, which is x axis. But which kind of x? Negative side. Negative 8 what? 8 Newton. And the next one here is what? 2 Newton. The 2 Newton can be found on what? Not on x, on negative y. So the next thing is what? We need to find the sum of resultant force for x axis and the sum of resultant force for y axis. So to know the sum for the resultant force for the y axis and the x axis, what we do now is what? Sum of this of resultant force for x axis, we have 5 plus 6 cos what? 30 minus 2 cos 60 minus 8. I mean now, then sum of the resultant force for x axis will be 5, 6 multiplied by cos 30. The cos 30 will give us what? 0.8660 minus 2 cos 60 will give us what? 0.5 minus 8. We have sum of resultant force for x axis will be 5 plus 0.6, 6 multiplied by 0.8660, it will give us what? 5.916. Then minus this, it will give us what? 1 minus what? 8. Sum of what? Resultant force x plus this. If you add this together, it will give us what? 10.196. We have 10.196 minus 9. The final answer for this, it will be sum of resultant force for x will be 1.196 Newton. So the next one is what? The resultant force for y axis. Sum of resultant force for y axis will be 6 sin 30 plus 4 plus 2 sin 60 minus 2. We have sum of a resultant force for y will be equal to what? 6 sin 30 is 0.5 plus 4 plus 2. This time is 0.8660 minus 2. So the sum for the resultant force y will be equal to what? This time this will give us what? 3 plus 4. 2 times 0.866. It will give us what? That will be 2 times this, 1.732. Minus 2. The sum of resultant force for this, if we add it together, 3 plus 4 making 7 plus 1.7, that will be 8.73 minus 2. It will give us what? 5.8. 5.8. No. Sorry. 5.73 Newton. And 7, 8. This, yes. 5.7 what? Newton. The next thing now is what? We will draw the diagram to be in this form. This is y-axis 5.73 Newton. Horizontal axis is 1.196 Newton. Join the two together. It will be what? Resultant F and theta this. So to know the resultant force here now, you will apply Pythagoras what? Pythagoras theorem. By applying Pythagoras theorem, the resultant force will be what? Resultant force for x-axis square plus resultant force for y-axis square, everything square root. So the resultant force will be 1.196 everything square plus 5.73 everything square, then square root. Resultant force will be 1.196 square. It should be 1.4304 plus 5.73 times 5.7. 5.73 times 5.7, it will be 32.8329. Then square what? Square root. This together, 3, 4. The resultant force will be 34.2634. So if you find what? The resultant force for 3.4, or that, square root of 34.2, you press the calculator, it's supposed to give you what? 5.8. Yes. What? 5.8 Newton. Or if I approximate, it will be 5 what? 5.9 what? Newton. That's the resultant what? Resultant force. So if you have to find the what? The angle, the tan theta equal to what? Resultant force for x, no, for y, over resultant force for what? For x. So the tan angle of x is y is 5.73 over 1.196. So the tan theta, divide this over this, it will give us what? 4.790. Then arc tan of this, we have 4.790 09. So if you press your second function, you get the final answer. So the next aspect we need to check now is parallelogram's law of vector.